Well, if it was that easy, who needs that thing?
So we all know that Paul is one of Ash's greatest rivals and possibly just one of the best anime rivals in general. But why? Why is Paul so great? And how did Pokemon stumble upon the holy scriptures to pull some of the most incredible writing we saw in Diamond and Pearl, with stories and character development that we just have never seen in Pokemon up to this point? Here is why Paul and Ash's rivalry was so good and how it all started with a certain little fire monkey. So from day one of Ash arriving in Sinnoh, Paul was straight in his grill. Ash hadn't even changed up into his new fit, and Paul was already giving him grief about how weak his new style is. From the start you could tell this was different. This wasn't even Gary levels of hating and mocking, this was straight disrespect, and a difference in ideals and training methods. Paul valued strength and ability. If a Pokemon didn't have what another one could easily obtain, he didn't care. He wasn't going to waste time on the basics. He only wanted a special kind of power. We even hear when he was so intrigued by the fact that Ash's Pikachu could use Volt Tackle, a unique move that made Pikachu special in Paul's eyes straight away. But the way Ash trained and befriended his Pokemon was the complete opposite. Paul had no interest in any of that. Diamond and Pearl out the gate brought into question something we'd never really touched upon. Trainers have different ways of doing things. We'd seen familiar one-offs, but to give Ash a major rival who is the complete opposite of him was really interesting and made for so many compelling moments and episodes. And it's ultimately why Paul became Ash's best rival. And their whole rivalry can be summarised with the development of Chimchar. This Pokemon, in my opinion, has the best written story of any Pokemon in the anime. The trials and tribulations, the hardships that it went through, the changing of trainers, everything that happened to this Pokemon was just fantastic storytelling. And Ash and Paul's whole rivalry was built upon it. It was fitting to see their first 3-on-3 where Chimchar is actually battling Ash, and straight away something isn't right. You can tell Paul isn't playing around with Chimchar. You can see Chimchar has a thrill for battle. It's jumping around, it's all happy when it wins. And Paul just says, why are you being happy about being pathetic? And it cuts like a knife. Chimchar is abused. Chimchar's strengths aren't praised by Paul. He only cares about it getting stronger. And just being adequate enough to win isn't enough for Paul. He is really ruthless, and I am so glad the writers took the risk and let this character go that far and really take what a rival is to the next level.
Okay, Chimchar, return. You're still just as useless as can be.
A-Bomb, return! You were awesome!
Ash and Paul bump heads many times. We even get the unique situation early on where Ash actually watches Paul take on his first Sinnoh gym. Again, some great writing. We've never really done this. Sure, we saw Gary get destroyed by Giovanni, but we never had the two rivals watching each other's gym battles. It just added more tension, more stakes, and put their two ways of battling against each other for everyone to see. And to make it worse, Ash loses right in front of Paul, which had to have hit hard for him. The two were just constantly butting heads over how to do things. Ash furious at how Paul just disposes of his Pokemon he doesn't want. That's not how Ash does things. Never has been and never will be. But for me, the moment where this rivalry really comes to a boiling point is the Heart Home Tag Team Tournament. This tournament in general is so underrated and not talked about enough. Ash couldn't get into Battle Fantina. Dawn had an early night getting knocked out in the appeal stages of her contest, so they both decided it would be a lot of fun to enter this tag team tournament. And they get paired with another random trainer. Honestly, it's such a fun idea. Don't see much like that in the Pokemon anime, so I really love revisiting this arc all the time. And of course, Ash gets paired with the man himself, Paul. This was incredible. The irony, the reluctance of both of them. Paul so frustrated and annoyed that he has to go with Ash. Well, Ash is at least trying to get them to work together, but Paul literally only entered to benefit his team, to go up against other fire types and power up Chimchar. This is actually where everything gets going, and I mean everything. We see Chimchar's backstory of how one day it was being hunted by some wild Zangoose, and in a fit of rage it unleashed its Blaze ability. This is what drew Paul towards it, and since then Paul has been trying to unleash that same power, because he knows the potential is massive. So he constantly trains it, forces it to the brink of defeat, puts it through so much pain so one day Chimchar can find the power that he has, which Chimchar himself wants to find. It's a real story of determination, but Chimchar doesn't take on Paul's methods great, and that's why Paul gets so frustrated with him, because they just aren't really meant for each other. And the tension really builds during this tournament as Paul and Ash just keep clashing. Paul isn't helping him, Paul won't listen, he just wants to power up Chimchar no matter how hurt it is. He just keeps going, and the breaking point is spectacular. Paul stops commanding Chimchar. Chimchar has the look of loss on its face, pure loneliness, abandoned by its own trainer. And my man Ash, I love him for this moment. He is not having it. He takes charge, he starts telling Chimchar what to do mid-battle, a Pokemon that isn't even his, and he wins the battle commanding both Pokemon. Ash couldn't stand to see Chimchar treated like this when he knows Chimchar just wants to have fun, battle and get stronger. Diamond and Pearl is probably my favourite characterization of Ash. He's so strong, he's so passionate about his way and not letting Pokemon feel left out. You really feel the weight of everything he's been through up to this point and how his experiences have helped him treat Pokemon with such love and care. No Pokemon should be left behind.
That was perfect timing between Chimchar and Trainer, but the trainer was Ash!
And then of course the moment, one of my favourite scenes in the entire Pokemon anime. Paul releases Chimchar. He's had enough, he feels that his methods can't take this Pokemon any further. Ash, frustrated and shocked that Paul is giving up after everything. Then he offers to take Chimchar on himself.
Hey, Chimchar, come with us!
Man, I shed tears every single time that I watch this moment. A sad Chimchar walking off into the distance and Ash giving his shoulder. A disgruntled Paul looking back, but the decision has been made, and really it's all down to lack of respect on Paul's part. He doesn't believe Ash can get the best out of Chimchar, and he doesn't believe in Chimchar himself. And when he is proved wrong, boy, it is good to watch. It's really a story about determination from Chimchar to prove his worth. But also it's about the vary of Pokemon. Different Pokemon take different training methods, just like real humans, and Chimchar took to Ash's care, love and appreciation, and that brought out its true strength. When one life meets another, something will be born. This is what Cynthia told us from the start, and that life was Infernape, the absolute beast that this Pokemon went on to become. Ash was the one that managed to control its Blaze ability, and Ash was the one that managed to overcome Paul. Infernape proving that it was always good enough. It just needed the right love and care. Man, this is peak Pokemon to me. This is my favourite specific storyline from the anime. I don't think another Pokemon has had this level of development and care that Infernape had. Possibly Greninja. It definitely revs up towards the back end of XYZ. But Chimchar from the first few episodes was already being set up. You can tell the writers had such big plans for it, and it was an ongoing plotline throughout the whole of Diamond and Pearl, which pays off perfectly. The journey of Chimchar to Infernape is a beautiful one, and for me the Heart-Home tag battles were the breaking point, the moment where it all changed. An underrated tournament, heartbreaking moment, immediately given new life by Ash, a new home for Chimchar where it would prosper and become one of the strongest Pokemon.
When every life meets another life, something will be born. Today's battle certainly gave birth to something between those two as well.